We're continuing on the 86 Monte Carlo project. We're going to get the bumper covers sanded down and some other small parts that we have to get ready for paint. I've been working on these already. Got the mirrors here that I've stripped down. I just took these all the way down to the metal. These don't need any kind of body work done to them because they were never damaged. So basically I just stripped the paint down to the metal. I'm going to go ahead and coat these with that DP90 epoxy and then color coat right on top of them. These will not need any body work. This bumper cover is the rear bumper cover. It's in pretty good shape. It's got a couple of small nicks on it here that I'll have to fill with some spot filler. But for the most part, I'm just going to go ahead and wet sand this down. And I'll go ahead and just spot prime those couple little areas where I had to work at. And then we're going to seal this with the epoxy primer, and that'll be ready for paint. The other pieces, got the spoiler is all stripped down. This here, I'm probably going to go ahead and do a couple of coats of a fill primer on this and then wet sand this down, mainly because of the edges and the unevenness of the paint on the edges. I want to make sure that everything blends in really good. There's no, you don't see any spots where I've sanded it at. So this will get some fill primer and a wet sand, and it'll be ready for epoxy and seal that. The other pieces that I've got, these are the filler pieces. These go in on either side of the back glass, and they fill in that back glass section next to in front of the trunk lid between the glass and the quarter panel. Takes up that space from the taper of the glass. So these will just get epoxy primed and top coated with the color and clear coat. Got a couple other small bits and pieces, some trim pieces that go around the rear tail lights. They'll get wet sanded, sealed, painted. Same thing with the fender extensions that go on the front. They'll just get wet sanded, sealed, and repainted. So a lot of these pieces are going to get done pretty quick. I've got a couple of pieces that go on the back around the bumper cover here. They'll get done in black. We're going to go ahead and re-black out around the headlights on the front bumper cover and the grill area. So all that stuff has to get prepped. So that's the goal for this week, is to get these pieces ready so that they can be primed, sealed, sanded, painted, finished, done, and then we get back on the body. Well, it's a couple days later, and I've been sanding like crazy on these parts and pieces that I need to get prepped to paint on this car. The rear bumper cover is all sanded. I got everything sanded out except I got a little bit left to do on the front bumper cover, and I'll show you that in a minute. But what I'm going to try and get done here this morning, I want to get, there's a couple of spots on the rear bumper cover here and this spoiler that need just a little bit of filler work. I found a couple of nicks in them. Let's see. We got one spot here, and then there's another spot right here on this bumper cover, and a spot here on the spoiler. So we're going to put a little bit of spot filler in those, get those sanded down, and then I'm going to go ahead and put some fill primer on this spoiler so this can be wet sanded down. As far as the front bumper cover goes, this has been a very tedious job trying to get this sanded out. As you can see here, I've got most of it sanded down. The hardest part has been just getting the grill area sanded out. And you can see, I got to get in between all these little openings in the grill and sand all in between these to get this ready, because we're going to redo all the blackout around the headlight openings and the grill. And there's a spoiler piece that goes on the bottom of the bumper cover. That's got to get sanded down. I've got those pieces up here. These are the These are the side pieces that go on the fenders, and the bottoms are done in black, like a matte black, and then at the top is a body color. So these are ready. These will all get redone with the black. And the spoiler piece is here that goes on the bottom of the bumper cover. That gets done in a matte black. This piece goes around the filler neck opening for the gas tank on the rear cover. That'll get redone in matte black. So everything will be matching. There won't be pieces that look out of place. So we're going to get moving on this and try and get these pieces done. And Ashton, you going to help me today? What do you got going on over here? You getting your trucks ready to paint?
No, not yet.
Not yet? You're just getting everything sanded, cleaned up, and ready for sanding? Okay, well, he's doing something anyhow. Well, that's what we got going on today, and I'll bring you back once I got everything finished sanded and primed out.
I'm done.
Well, I've got my spoiler and my rear bumper cover fixed. Those couple of spots that I pointed out previously. Used some just spot putty in them and sanded them down quick. So they're ready for some surface primer. And what I'm going to use this time is an Omni brand, which is a lower line of PPG product. And this is a 2K high build primer surfacer. This primer is not quite as heavy as the Evercoat primer that I used on the body. So this is good for wet sanding or a final primer sand. You'll see me use this again on the body once I've got everything block sanded out. We'll put a coat of this on top of that and go ahead and DA sand this off. So we're going to mix this up, and just a small amount I need to do. I'm going to do the entire spoiler and just those couple of spots on the rear bumper cover, and then I'll be able to wet sand those out. Okay, I got 3 good coats on the spoiler and hit those 2 spots on the rear bumper cover. I'm going to let this set up for the rest of the day, and probably tomorrow I'll go ahead and wet sand these 2 pieces out after I'm finished with the front bumper nose, getting the grill finished out and that, and then I'll move on to these, and that'll leave all these parts ready for an epoxy sealer prime, and we'll move on from there. We are back here in the booth again. We finally got all the parts sanded down for this car, the little parts that I want to get painted, the front nose, the lower valance, we've got the fender pieces, the trunk filler opening, mirrors, the rear window filler pieces, the back bumper, spoiler, and 2 little pieces that go around the rear marker lights on the quarter panels. Everything has been sanded. It's ready to be cleaned. I don't ever want to sand another one of these bumper covers again, because I spent countless hours in here like this with the sandpaper going all around this grill to make sure that that was sanded out and ready for new black paint. So the plan is to get everything cleaned up today and get our epoxy primer on everything, and then that's got to set up for a minimum of an hour, and then I have to come in and I want to tape out around the grill area and the headlight openings on this, and that'll leave this ready to put the blackout on. So we're going to black out the headlight openings, grille, valence piece, bottoms of these fender extensions get blacked out, and then there's a piece that goes around in the back bumper cover where the filler neck is, that gets blacked out. So I get all the black paint on and let that set up for a couple of days and get cured well enough that I can tape it. So then I've got to cover all this and cover the grill. This will come out of the booth and get removed. The fender extension pieces have to get taped over. Then we can come in and do our color coat on all these in the maroon, the original maroon color. So that'll leave all the rest of those pieces painted and ready to go back on the car. So we'll get all that done hopefully by the end of this week. Today's Tuesday. Hopefully Friday afternoon, maybe Saturday, I'll be putting color and clear on these parts, and they can set up and then go home to the owner's shop where he's going to keep them there until they're ready to go on the car. So I use a blue tack cloth. These are designed more for modern paints, doing base coat, clear coats. They don't have as much wax on them, and that's what these have. They have kind of like a waxy substance that picks up any little pieces of dust or dirt or things that may have fallen on your paint, and gets everything nice and cleaned off before you go and spray. So these don't leave a residue when you wipe with these. So you just go along and just lightly go over everything and give it a wipe. Pick up anything that may be laying on top of these. Try and get all your areas so that you can get anything in there off. And then wipe down my paper. Anything that might be on there. I'll go ahead and get my fan turned on, so it's going to get noisy. Alright, that's 2 coats of epoxy on all these parts. These need to set for a minimum of 1 hour after 2 coats before top coating with whatever you're going to top coat with. Again, we're going to do the insides of our headlights, the grille, bottoms of the fenders extensions, that surround, and the bottom piece for the front bumper cover are all going to get done in a matte black finish. So tomorrow morning I'll come in here and I'll mask out where I'm going to paint at so I don't get too much overspray on the rest of this bumper cover. And we'll go ahead and shoot the matte black, and then I'm going to need to let that set for a couple days before I can come back in and tape on it again to do the rest of the color. The pieces that are not going to get color on them will be taken out of the booth and they'll be finished and ready for installation. Alright, it's the next day and our epoxy primer has set up overnight. I came back and sprayed it last night. So today we're going to spray on the matte black in the grille, headlight openings, and the bottoms of the fender extensions, and the lower valence piece that goes on the bumper cover. And what we're using is the same product I used in the blending experiment that I did on the fender. It's a matte black from the Vintage Flats company. And this comes in several different colors, but we wanted to go with the black. I did a car in this full paint job in this color about 2 years ago, and it looks really good. It's got a nice hard finish, so it should hold up good on the grille and headlight openings on this. So we're going to go ahead and mix this. It gets mixed 4-to-1, and I'm just going to use my small touch-up gun to spray this, and I'm going to go ahead and put the camera in the booth and get set up and mix my paint and start shooting. Alright, we got our blackout done on our Monte Carlo parts. And again, this is that piece that goes on the back bumper cover. It's where your filler neck is. As you can see, it's got that nice kind of semi-gloss or matte finish black that they used on these cars. And the front lower valence piece that goes on the bottom of the front bumper cover. We'll take a peek in the booth here. And here's our bumper cover with the blackout done around the headlights and the grille area. I got the bottoms of the fender extensions done here. So the rest of this stuff that's in here now, I'm getting ready to start mixing some paint. I went and bought the color yesterday. And we're going to get everything set up, wipe everything down one more time, get the booth ready, turn the fans on, and start spraying some color. So I'm going to put the camera up on time lapse and let you watch some color go on the car. We've got the parts ready for paint. Got all the headlight openings and the grille masked off, and the bottoms of the fender extension pieces. They're all ready, so we don't get any of this nice red paint on our blackout. And take a look at what we're going to use for paint. What we're going to use on this car, since this is going to be one of the higher quality paint jobs that we do here. We're going with all the top end products from PPG again. We use a base coat. It's a DBC, and for this car it's a dark red poly. It's got a ton of pearl in it. My eyes were going wide open when he was mixing this color up for me at the amount of pearl that was going into this paint. So this paint is again, it's a base coat, and it gets mixed 1-to-1. So out of this 1 gallon of paint, I'll actually have 2 sprayable gallons. And it gets mixed with a DT885 reducer. I tend to go with a mid temperature reducer year round, unless I happen to be spraying something in the summer when it's like 95 degrees. Then I will use a higher temp solvent so it slows down the evaporation rate. As far as our clear coat, again, high quality stuff. We're going with the global line of PPG paints and using an 894 that gets mixed with its own hardener. I have used this clear a few times before, and I really like the way it flows out and lays out on the car. There's not a lot of sanding that has to be done afterwards to get the orange peel out and make it a nice flat glossy finish. It'll be shiny and glossy when it's done, but you do a little bit of wet sanding and buffing on the car afterwards, and it just makes the car look like a mirror. So that's what we're going with as far as products go on this. So I'm going to put my color in my paint shaker, get it shook up and ready to mix up and mix some paint, and then we're going to go in and wipe down the parts and start spraying. Everything's been wiped down with prep solvent, wax and grease remover, and I got to do one final wipe with the tack cloth, and then we're ready to start spraying some color. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything wiped down and start spraying. I'm going to do 2 coats of this color. It should be enough to cover. The DBC line has a lot of good solids in it, so your coverage is a lot quicker. It's not as transparent as a lower line might be that may have less solids, less pigments in it. It takes longer to cover your work. So you're paying one way or the other. You're either spraying more paint or you're paying more for the paint up front. So let's go tack it off. we got 2 coats of color on all of our parts. Front bumper cover, side marker, surrounds, fender extensions, deck lid spoiler, rear bumper cover, and our mirrors and the rear deck filler pieces that go in next to the rear glass. So we're going to go ahead now and mix up our clear coat. Clear coat mixed up, and I'm going to get 2 coats on everything. I may do 3 coats on the bumper cover just in case I want to wet sand it out some. It'll give me a little bit of cushion to sand on. But 2 coats on everything else should be sufficient because most of these pieces won't be getting wet sanded and buffed. They're just too small to really contend with to do that with. And being as they are so small, the paint, the clear coat will usually flow out well enough where it looks pretty good when it's done without having to wet sand and buff it. So let's go mix some clear. Alright, going to give everything a wipe down with our blue tack rag. Just collect any dust that may have settled on the parts before we put the clear on them, and then we're going to start clearing. Well, a couple days have passed since we've got the color and the clear coat on the body parts for the Monte Carlo, and everything really came out nice. The clear coat that I used is a higher end clear, and I like using it because it does have good flow out characteristics, which means when it dries it doesn't have a lot of orange peel in it. So even though we could let this go the way it is. I probably will end up wet sanding and buffing this car after reassembly is done. Probably be sometime in the spring of next year. We'll get the car back over here and go over the whole car and rub it and buff it out. And it came out pretty clean too. There's a couple pieces of trash here and there in some of the parts, but that's to be expected almost with any paint booth. So we'll give you a look at what we got as far as the final finish on our parts. You can see the difference here, hopefully. The grille blackout and the headlight opening blackouts. And that's the bumper cover. And then we've got the little side marker surrounds and our fender extension pieces. They came out pretty nice with our blackout on the bottom. And then the rear spoiler goes on the trunk lid. And then we've got our rear bumper cover. I'm kind of looking around these for the first time myself after letting them set up and dry. I was away at a car show all day yesterday, which you'll see videos of on soon. And I'm not seeing any runs or sags, so I did pretty good. And then we've got our filler pieces here that go in next to the back glass. They came out pretty good. And our side mirrors, these all look nice, really clean. I'm really happy with how the job came out. So we're going to get a hold of the owner and let him come pick these parts up and take them home. And this way we can move on with getting the rest of the car finished. It's going to be blocking and repairing any spots that I find there and prepping that car for paint. I'll probably save you the agony of watching me block sand that car. I'll do a little intro video when I get started, and then maybe catch up in between, and then a final look at it before it comes into the booth to get painted. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks we'll have color and clear on the body and have that car done. So again, I appreciate everybody that's been following, all my new subscribers. I hope you are enjoying the new content. Some of this may be a little bit boring right now. I've got some videos that are going to be coming up here soon from the car show I went to yesterday. I shot enough footage to make 3 different videos. One of the show, one with a friend of mine that does some component restorations, and another special video I did with a with a lady who was there with her car that was a very special member of their family. So you'll get to see all of those in the next coming couple of weeks. So again, I thank you for following along. If you can, give me a thumbs up, leave me some comments, share these videos. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. If you've been following along with some stuff and haven't subscribed, it's free. It doesn't cost anything to hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification after you've subscribed, and you'll get to see all these upcoming videos and be able to go back and look at all my prior stuff that I've shot here. And again, we're going to catch up with you soon on the Monte Carlo project and other things that are going on. Thanks again.